Okay, everyone. Today we're going to be going over some reasons for and against a universal basic income. We're going to start with, let's go with nutrition and other health problems caused by poverty. It is shown repeatedly in practically every UBI trial that's ever been done that the vast majority of the money ends up going toward food or health. Take, for example, and I'll be using this particular UBI trial at least twice during this video. In Namibia, the proportion of malnourished children dropped from 42% to 10%. From 42 to 10. So at the end of the trial, only a quarter of the children who started off being designated as malnourished were still in that situation. That by itself is a just ringing endorsement of UBI as a whole. Also, many other problems with poverty that affect your health include things that people don't always think about. Like the quality of your shoes affects your gait and can end up affecting the angle at which your feet hit the ground, thus affecting your ankle, your knee, your hip, your back long term. The quality of the bed you sleep on can end up affecting all major joints. Your clothing in and of itself, depending on the work you do, your clothing can have a huge impact. Not just in things where you need specialty clothing, like to protect you from whatever work you're doing, but also in your chance to advance, in your chance to even be hired. Because appearances have an awful lot to do with who moves up in the world. We hate to admit it, but everyone knows that's true. Also, where you're able to live, if you're able to even be housed at all. All of those things contribute to both physical health and mental health. The next thing about a UBI that I think is just one of its greatest points is a reduction in crime. Very often, crime is a result of desperation. You have the exception in white-collar crime, things like fraud. But the vast majority of crimes are little petty crimes, little bitty things. I mean, just nonviolent drug charges are a big problem in my country right now. And we'll return to Namibia's trial. In it, crime dropped by 36.5%. That should shock everyone. In another trial that was done in California, they found that recidivism of criminals who had already served their time and been released back into the community, they did a UBI trial there. They found their recidivism was cut by, I believe it was 60%. So that kept 60% of those people from committing another crime that would get them arrested. Similarly, in a lot of areas, being homeless, see again where you're able to live, is a crime. Or the things entailed in homelessness are a crime, like loitering, sleeping exposed, essentially being poor in public. So those are two big hitters for good reasons to have a UBI. The last one is generalized equality. A UBI of any level will help raise the quality of a society. It will help bring about the opportunities needed to pursue things that better your quality of life. Be that schooling, a different environment, potentially escaping abuse, being able to do something that you like rather than what is financially the most beneficial at the time. It's a very simple thing, but it can lead to a lot. Your generalized happiness and mental well-being are actually highly dependent on the money that you make and the health and well-being of those that you care about. If your children are sick, you're usually not in the best state of mind. If your children are sick and your finances are super, super tight, you might not be able to afford to take the time off of work to care for them. But I'll go further into the various other benefits of UBI as we proceed through this series. Let's get to some of the detractions, some of the reasons why some people believe that UBI would be a bad thing. Some people argue that a UBI of any quality, small, medium, large, anything in between, they believe that money going into the hands of everyone will result in laziness, people quitting their job or taking fewer hours. And yes, a couple of the studies do suggest that some people did indeed take fewer hours. However, those might be the very kind of people that we are looking to take fewer hours, because this occurred most commonly among students who are trying to better themselves through education so they could get a better, more productive job in the future than they otherwise would, and parents of young children, particularly mothers who had recently had a child. Otherwise, most of the studies bear out that there is little to no change in overall work ethic. In a handful of them, some individuals actually worked slightly more. This is partly because of the broken system of welfare we have, where sometimes making more money at a job will result in you not getting as many funds from whatever your support net check happens to be, which we'll have a whole video on the broken support net in my country. There's some salt there. We'll get to it. All right, so that's out of the way. Okay, fine. They won't know how to spend it. They're going to spend it on frivolous things. They're going to buy smokes, beer, and, oh no, drugs. Well, there's only one of those that might potentially reduce the amount of money overall flowing in your community. But we'll go ahead and address that one, the whole drugs thing. Typically, it's been found in drugs trials that taking drugs is either a result of being in what is a relatively financially stable environment, where those are part of the culture, and a certain amount of helplessness, a desire to escape, a desire to get away. Something that is actually notably reduced by tolerance and better finances, both. As far as the alcohol, cigarettes, steak, all of those things that are considered luxuries and are typically considered a benefit to the economy when most people buy them. Not to mention that both alcohol and cigarettes in most areas have an additional luxury tax on them, so they'd actually help pay back more of the cost of the UBI. I'm really not saying this point is very valid. Okay, so we've got the they might decide not to work, and the whole they might spend it frivolously out of the way. What's left on it? Oh, the cost. Well, the cost of a UBI partially depends on just how high do you want to set it. Because pretty much regardless of how high you set your UBI, the vast majority of people that it will help will pretty much spend all of it, usually in pretty short order, relatively quickly returning its cost in taxes. And even if all of it is not absorbed by taxes, the biggest harm of large sums of money in our economy is when it is being hoarded. Because any dollar that is moving through the economy is a dollar that is benefiting you and everybody you know. Everybody in the world is benefited by more dollars moving through the economy. If you spend money at a restaurant, where does that money go? Well, some of it will go to the owner. Some of it will go to the employees directly. And then some of it will go to restocking, which is going to fuel all of the places that they get their fresh produce. It might go to repairs. It might go to uniforms. It might go to any charities that particular restaurant might support. It might go to, well, pretty much anywhere in your community that supplies anything that restaurant needs to function. Similarly with pretty much every household, which is the exact point of universal basic income. Any household that gets paid is going to result in the place where they get their food being paid, where they get their clothing being paid, their housing, their utilities, their transport. Everything that anybody spends money into benefits by their customers having more money. And this is why universal basic income is not socialism. Because in a capitalist society, the requirement for entry and participation in the society is capital. The fastest way to increase the capital of people who otherwise don't have any is to give them money. Giving them money will enhance their opportunities, which will enhance their ability to have better jobs, better education, to pursue things that make them better people, be that by being happier, being able to contribute more to the community, being able to travel so they explore the world more, being able to generally do things that are considered socially positive. So then, what really is the negative to a universal basic income? Some people will say, well, it hasn't been well tested yet, not on a large scale. It has, depending on what you consider a large scale. Is an entire village a large scale? How about an entire state? Because Alaska has one. It's just a very small one that they only get once a year. But it's one of the most popular things in the state. One of the most stable. And has produced some really nice benefits. Let's see Alaska's benefits here. Spending and savings regularly increase around the time that the dividend is distributed, so there goes the inflation problem. Let's see. Increase the purchasing power and resulted in over 10,000 additional jobs. Poverty rate among the natives in the state fell by 6% in just 10 years. And that was last taken in 1990. Love to see what it is now. I should probably look that up. And only 1% of the people who reported did less work. So, Alaska had wonderful results. Is the whole state big enough for anybody out there who's wondering about the size? Oh, Hawaii's also had a proposed state UBI that's kind of sat in limbo for a while in their local legislation. So there's that. Also, multiple cities have done various UBIs, and the charity Just Giving also has found that, hey, giving money straight might actually be the most effective means of charity in most situations. It's really shocking, isn't it? But those are many of the reasons why. Why not? I hope they help equip anyone looking to explain this to anyone else. And I will let y'all go until the next video. And bye.